Well, hello everybody. I'm Scott Moore and I am teaching from 21st Yoga in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm so thrilled to be here. I'm teaching a level 1 flow class and this is going to be in the Wanderlust style, which would be kind of cool. And we'll just go through that and I'll tell you what that is as we're doing it. We're going to be focusing on opening up our shoulders and doing some lateral bends today, some side bends. I've got 2 blocks handy. And if you've got some blocks, great. If not, don't worry about it. You can improvise with some cushions or anything else you've got. And without further ado, let's get going. I actually want to start by lying down on our back. Okay, so we're going to start lying our back like so. I'm going to have these blocks kind of handy. I can grab them when I want them. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll over to my right side. Roll over to my left side. Put my hand behind me so my fingertips kind of go up by my shoulder blades, and then I'm going to do a gentle roll back over onto my spine. And if you haven't already, we're going to begin our Ujjayi breath here. This is sort of like some pre-yoga that's going to open up and get ourselves ready for, our bodies ready and get the energy to start to flow. So begin your Ujjayi breath. You might even put your other hand on your heart here and begin this slow process of inhaling and exhaling through the nostrils. With this shoulder that's opening, I'm thinking of pointing my elbow downward just a little bit and feeling my shoulder blade pull in the spine, toward the spine a little bit. Now, of course, you want to be very careful if this doesn't work well for your shoulder. Be very gentle. You can also just descend your hand down maybe toward the middle or lower part of your back. That'll still open up your shoulder. So to get out of this, you're going to roll back over to your left side, gently remove this arm, roll over to your right side, and we'll do the same thing. So bring your hand back behind you, and then gently roll back over. I'm getting this gentle little twist at the same time. And then maybe I bring this all up. Should feel pretty nice. The other thing I'm going to think of as I'm doing this is gently hugging lower back downward toward the floor, which is nice. Feels really, really good here. And then I'm going to roll back over. Once I've had this side kind of balance as much as the other side, I'm going to roll back over, remove this, and grab one or both of my blocks. Okay, so my torso is a little bit long, so I'm going to grab both blocks. I'm going to lift my hips up pretty high, and then I'm going to slide these underneath. I'm going to show you a variation too if this doesn't work for you. I'm going to reach up, grab my foot, put top of the foot to the floor, and kind of aim my knee to the floor for the beginnings of a quad stretch here. Okay. And if you don't have anything to lift up like this, what I might suggest in lieu of that would be to just come into a Vrajasana, where I'm going to kneel down, maybe even put a block underneath my sacrum. Again, it's sitting bones, if you have it. Otherwise, just kind of hang out like this and maybe do a gentle lean back. We've done almost zero warm-up, right? So we want to be super careful. We're not overdoing this. I want to be careful with my knees, but I'm just looking for a little bit of a stretch here in the quads, okay? Now, if you are on your back, then of course, you're going to take a moment and switch sides, right? So with your feet down to the floor, kind of like in a supported bridge pose, pick up the foot, put it toenail side down, and give yourself a little stretch here, the quad, the shin, etc. If you're in the other version, the sort of proto, quad stretch, Vrajasana position, then you can just hang out there for another couple of breaths, right? So we're going to kind of meet our max capacity for that sooner than later. Let's all come up to a seated position if you haven't already. And in this position, I'm going to sit up on a block. Send your right arm up in the air, turn your palm to face behind you, and place your fingertips to your shoulder blade. Point your palm up onto your elbow, push your elbow up into your palm, sit up as tall as you can, and then lean over toward your left. So I'm getting a little stretch down through kind of triceps, teres major, minor down into the lats. As I lift up and move over to one side. Let my head sort of rest back against my wrist, against my forearm. Feels pretty good. And then you'll notice that there is a little divot behind my ear. There's a little bony protuberance right behind the ear on my left side, and my middle finger of my right hand is going to hold that little divot, and I'm going to cradle my head as I lean my head over the side and reach this over like so. Just a couple of breaths as I get my body used to doing some of these lateral bends, opening up some of these parts of the body that we're going to access through our practice today. Now I'm going to leave my head where it is, slide my hand to the underside of my head, and then gently press my head back up to neutral. And then from there, let's do the other side. So lefty's going to reach up in the air. Bend the elbow as your fingertips move toward your shoulder blade. Palm comes up to elbow, and I'm going to push my elbow up to my palm, and then lift up and gently lean over just slightly toward the right side. Kind of press the back of my head into my forearm. I'm also rooting my sitting bones downward into whatever I'm sitting on. In this case, I'm sitting on a block. Okay, so I'm just going to turn this into a full back bend. Right. Now, I'm going to tilt my head to my left, reach with my right arm off to the side. My head is sort of resting back, cradled in the palm of my hand, and giving myself just a gentle little stretch down to the side of my neck. Very good, very good. Slide your hand to the underside of your head and press your head back up to neutral. From here, let's bring our hands to our hearts. And if you'd like to join me, we'll officially start with an Om. Breathe in. Beautiful. So let's arrange ourselves forward on our yoga mat in a high lunge. And the way I'm going to qualify a high lunge is with my back knee lifted off the floor. Now, I've got my hands on blocks because that feels good, but you might also choose to keep your hands just on the floor. And what we're going to do is simply inhale, lean the chest forward, look forward a little, straighten up your front leg a little as you round your spine. And whereas we're just inhaling, come up to a right angle in your front knee, and exhaling, straightening the front leg a little, we're just warming up here. So I'm not taking a really deep stretch. I'm just kind of moving back and forth in a way that feels ai, which is like most of the way to all right. It's like all right light is what it is. That's what ai it is. All right, so from here, after I've done this a couple of times, I'm going to hang with my front knee right over my ankle. My left hand's going to stay on my block or the floor, and I'm just going to do a little twist. Reach my right arm toward the ceiling. Let it feel good. Okay. Now, at any time, of course, you're welcome to put your back knee to the floor for some support if that works better for you. Otherwise, keep your leg up, your knee up. And after we've been here for a couple of breaths, then you're going to reach your right arm toward the back of the room and your left arm toward the front of the room as you come up into a standing twist. Super straight and strong with your back leg. Open with your chest, looking back to my back hand. Standing twist. Give myself one more breath here, and then on my exhale, I'm going to swing it forward in this pose. Drop my shoulders down a little bit. A little lift in the pubic bone for a stretch in the groin. And then with the exhale, put my hands down to the floor and press into a gentle downward facing dog. So the first down dog of the day, I'm going to keep my knees a little bit bent. Get back in my ujjayi breath if I've let that go. Then look up to the hands and step your left foot forward toward your left thumb. Find your way back into this high lunge position, and with either fingertips on the floor or hands on blocks, depending on what you've got, you're going to inhale and look forward. Then exhale, straighten up your front leg a little. Inhale again, bend your front knee some, and look forward. And just move back and forth in a way that feels good, right? We're just inviting these muscles to begin to open up. And we're slowly building to a place where we can flow. We're just kind of introducing the body to these poses. introducing these muscles to how we're going to use them a little bit more later on. Okay, so once you've done this several times, set your shoulder right over your wrists, your knee right over your ankle, and twist open into this twisting lunge position. A couple rounds of slow ujjayi breath here. I want to remain mentally in contact with the ball of my right big toe pressing the floor. It's a great anchor, and it's going to support me as I now come up to my standing twist. So my right arm is going to reach forward, and left arm is going to reach back. Kind of descend your left shoulder blade down your spine, feeling a length from your hip through your armpit, and as if it's these right ribs that are pulling toward the left side in order to make the twist happen. Then finally, we're going to bring our hands forward, descend the shoulder blades down, again for this variation of a lunge position. And finally, put your hands back down to the floor. Let's move into plank pose. On the exhale, lower down slowly all the way to the floor, chaturanga. Roll the shoulders back. Move into a gentle cobra pose, kind of light. And then let's exhale and lift back into a downward facing dog. As your body opens up, feel free to go as straight-legged as you'd like in this pose. However, remember that straight legs isn't necessarily the qualification for a successful down dog. Feeling good is the qualification for a successful down dog. Let's raise the right leg in the air. Step your right foot forward between your hands on your exhale. We're going to do the same thing. So inhale, look forward, and exhale, straighten it out. We're just going to do it a little quicker. Inhale, and exhale. Inhale, and exhale. Now as you inhale, bend your front knee up to a right angle and reach your right arm toward the ceiling. Exhale, hold that pose. Inhale, come up to your standing twist position. Exhale, swing your hands together. This time, inhale, bend your back knee almost to the floor. And exhale, put your hands to the floor. Slide into downward facing dog. Raise your left leg in the air on the inhale. Exhale, step your left foot forward between your hands. Inhale, look forward. And exhale, straighten your left leg a little. Inhale, bend your front knee again, look forward. And exhale, straighten it out a little. Keep going. Now this time as you inhale, bend your front knee and twist your left arm toward the sky. Exhale, hold that pose. Inhale up into your standing twist. Exhale, bring your hands together, facing forward. Inhale, bend your back knee almost to the floor. And exhale, plant your palms, slide back to downward facing dog for a couple of breaths. Now, if you are chomping at a bit for more chaturangas, be my guest. You can lower down to chaturanga on the exhale. Roll through cobra or up dog, inhale. And downward facing dog, exhale. Let's raise the right leg. Here we go again. Same thing, exhale forward. 3 times. So inhale, look forward. Exhale, straighten it out. That's number 1. Inhale, bend your front knee and look forward. And exhale, straighten it out. Inhale. And exhale. Now this time, inhale, bend your front knee and reach your right arm to the sky. Exhale, hold that pose. Inhale, standing twist position. Exhale, bring it forward, point your fingers forward. Inhale, bend your back knee almost to the floor. And exhale, plant your palms, downward facing dog, optional vinyasa. Here we go with left side. Raise your left leg, inhale. Forward on the exhale. 3 of these little lunge things. Inhale, straighten it out on the exhale. Inhale, and exhale. And inhale, and exhale. Now as you inhale, bend your front knee. Reach your left arm toward the sky. Exhale, hold that pose. Inhale to a standing twist. Exhale, hands together, facing forward. Inhale, bend your right knee almost to the floor. And exhale, hands to the floor. Slide to plank. Lower down, chaturanga. Cobra or an up dog position. Let's stick with kind of a lower, less intense version. We'll get into more of the upward facing dog poses when we get further on in our sequence, but we'll kind of keep it a little minimal here. Let's back to down dog. 4 or 5 long breaths here in downward facing dog pose. Keep your knees bent if it feels better for your body to do so. As you inhale, I invite you to bend your knees and look forward to your hands. Do a step or walk, hop your feet to hands. And as you inhale, bend your knees into a high squat position. Hands can be on the floor or hands can be on blocks. It's up to you. Straighten up your legs as you exhale. Fold forward. Inhale, bend your knees again, look forward. And exhale, straighten up, fold forward. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Stand all the way up. Reach toward the ceiling. Cut your palms and exhale with your hands together. Back to your thigh. Now we're going to do 5 sun salutation A's together. And I'm going to lead the first 2 of these. And then you can just do the rest, the other 3 on your own. I'm going to be doing all of them so you can just watch to see what I'm doing. Or if you kind of know what you're doing, great, go for it. Also, there's a little bit of level, there's some room for improvisation here too, so you can add or subtract poses as you want, okay? So, sun salutation A is like this. Hands together at your heart. Inhale, raise your arms to the sky. As you exhale, hinge at your waist as you fold forward. Come up halfway to a flat spine, breathe in. As you exhale, step or float all the way into a chaturanga. Roll your shoulders back. Open up into a high cobra pose or medium cobra pose. And then let's exhale, downward facing dog. Now, when we come into downward facing dog through these sun salutations, we want to give ourselves 4 or 5 breaths here in this pose. Arms relatively straight. Maybe turn the palms out just a little teeny bit to give a little freedom for the shoulders, a little freedom for the wrists. The next time you inhale, bend your knees a bunch, look forward, and then step or hop or walk. Feet to hands. Come up halfway as you breathe in, lean your chest forward, Ardha Uttanasana. Go into full Uttanasana, forward fold pose. Stand up as you inhale, reach to the sky. And exhale, hands together, back to heart. That's one sun salutation A. Here we go for another one. Inhale, reach up. Dive forward on the exhale. Inhale, come up to a flat spine again. Step back or float all the way to Chaturanga Dandasana. Roll to Cobra pose, inhale. And downward facing dog, exhale. Four or 5 breaths here. Take any variation of any of these poses you wish. On your next inhale, bend your knees a bit, look forward, exhale, walk or hop, feet to hands. Flat spine, breathe in. Fold forward, exhale. Stand back up, inhale, reach to the sky. And exhale, hands back to heart. Okay, so we're going to do 3 more of these. Go at your own pace. I'm going to be leading these, so you can just follow what I'm doing, or kind of have a couple minutes of yoga improvisation here, all right? Here we go. Inhale, reaching to the sky. Exhale, fold forward. Flat spine, breathing in. Step or float to Chaturanga. Cobra or an up dog position, inhale. In downward facing dog, exhale. Of course, we got our 4 or 5 breaths going here. When it feels right, maybe next inhale, bend your knees, look forward. Hop or walk feet forward on the exhale. Land empty. Inhale, find a flat spine. Exhale, fold forward. Stand up as you inhale, Straightish spine, strong legs, strong core. And exhale, hands back to heart. Let's do 2 more of these. Here we go. Inhale. Fold forward, exhale. Flat spine, inhale. Step back or float back, chaturanga dandasana. Cobra, high cobra, inhale. Down dog, exhale. I always consider down dog as a great opportunity just to catch my breath, ground for a moment. Here we go, bend the knees, look forward, and walk or hop forward, feet to hands. Flat spine, inhale, fold forward, exhale, stand back up, breathe in, and exhale, hands back to heart. Last one, here we go. Dive forward on the exhale. Flat spine, inhale, feels really great. Hop or step back, chaturanga. Cobra and up dog, inhale, and downward facing dog. You're doing great, keep it up. Keep your deep breath moving. Just be mindful of what's going on in the body. This is a practice. This is yoga practice, not yoga perfect. So just feel into whatever feels right for you today. Hop or step forward on your next exhale. Flat spine, inhale. Back to forward fold, exhale. And let's stand back up. Inhale. Hands back to heart, exhale. Good. Take a couple rounds of Ujjayi breath and feel into yourself. Get grounded here to the floor. And just take a moment and notice what's happened for you so far in our yoga practice, right? You've been very active, built a kind of a flow, even including our sun salutations. And then now we're going to bump it up just a little bit. Energy's going to be a little bit more, a little bit higher as we open up to some of our lateral bends in our body. Okay, so take a moment, move into chair pose. Drop your hips some. To kind of show you the side version of what I'm doing. Tailbone slightly drawing under, abdominals pulling in. The next time you exhale, straighten up and fold forward. Uttanasana again. Flat spine, breathe in. Just like we've been doing, step or float into chaturanga. Cobra, this time let's move into a full upward facing dog if you want. Shoulder blades pulling together and slide down the spine. I'm qualifying up dog from Cobra pose by lifting my thighs slightly up off the floor. Not very far, but just a little bit. My lower back needs to comply. Downward facing dog, exhale. Raise your right leg in the air, inhale, put a micro bend in your left knee. Bend your right knee and open it to the sky. A little side bend here to the right side of my body, all the way down to my right quads. Now, step your right foot forward between your hands. Turn your left heel flat and move into warrior two pose. I'm going to turn around so you can see what I'm doing. So here in a warrior two, put your left hand to your hip, turn your right palm open toward the ceiling as you reach up. Let's get into more of this side bend business, this lateral bend. So long through the trunk, start to lean back. Put your hand back behind your head, cradling your head into your hand. Put your left palm up to right elbow. As you push up, start to lean back, and then bend your front knee even deeper. Now exhale, release this through warrior two, and put your right fingertips to the floor on the outside of your right foot. Squeeze your bicep to the outside of your knee. Press your knee into your bicep, and then send your left arm across your temple. So here's things are going to change just a little bit. Put your left hand to the floor, lift your left heel off the ground, reach your right arm forward, and you're going to do a turn so that you roll to the outside edge of your left foot, and you pivot on your right heel so your right toes point back. It's like a variation of this side plank pose. So we're going to hang here for just a hot second. Then pick up your right foot and put it to the floor just behind your left calf muscle. Put your right hand behind your head and pull your head into your hand as you open up your chest toward the ceiling. Little quad stretch here, a little side bend, just like we've been doing. Now when you exhale, put your right hand back to the floor, step your right foot forward between your hands into this lunge, and keep going to your left. You're going to straighten your right leg and bend your left knee into Skandasana, like so. So I get a great stretch on the inside of the thigh. Notice my toes are still on the floor but pointing forward. And if you want, you could pivot on your right heel to point your toes up toward the ceiling. Sometimes you can use a block and sit your butt on the block for a little bit of balance if you want that. Okay. There's also an option for a shoulder opener if you want to bind in this pose. All options are optional, of course. Release, walk your hands back to the right, and let's step back into a downward facing dog pose. Okay, 4 or 5 breaths here in downward facing dog. Again, I'm switching sides so that I'm kind of on the right side to do what I want to do. Send your left leg in the air into a 3-legged dog. Bend your left knee and open it toward the sky. Descend your right heel to the floor as an anchor. And feel your knee is trying to pull away from your armpit here. Keep your shoulders square. That is to say, left knee away from left armpit. Now step your left foot forward between the hands. Open into Warrior 2 on the side. Set up a nice solid Warrior 2. Plant right hand to hip. Turn left palm up. Reach up into Reverse Warrior. A little lift from the pubic bone might even give you a stretch through the groin. Then put your hand behind your head and pull your head back into your hand. On the exhale, we're going to windmill our way into side angle pose. So left fingertips to the floor. Send your right arm across your temple. Now we're going to change things up here a little bit. So come into a high lunge. Right fingertips to the floor. Lift your right heel off the ground. Reach your left arm forward and then reach it to the left as you do a little turn. Roll to the outside edge of your right pinky toe. Point your left toes forward and raise your left arm to the sky. Keep your left hip kind of high here. And then after a couple of breaths, pick up your left foot, put it behind your right calf, put your left hand behind your head, and pull your head up into your hand as your hip bone, left hip, lifts up to the sky. Awesome, everybody. Now this is kind of a step and turn. Bring your left hand back to the mat, step your left foot forward between your hands, and walk your hands to the right. Here's the turn, right? So Skandasana. Just bend your right knee. See if you can keep your right heel to the floor. And either that's your pose, or pivot on your right or left heel to point those up to the sky. You might notice that my right toes are pointed off like at an angle, okay? And I can hang here. I bring my hands forward for balance, okay? But it might work if I want to try the bind here. I'm not going to go for the bind on this side. And then walk your hands back to the front and slide back through a vinyasa. Once you're in downward facing dog, give yourself a couple of breaths to feel into your body. We're going to do that exact same sequence again, but maybe just a little bit quicker with some variations, okay? So, a couple of breaths here. In downward facing dog, I'm switching sides so I can always kind of face you as best as possible. Inhale, raise right leg to the sky. Exhale, right foot forward between your hands. Move into Warrior 2. Inhale. Exhale, left hand to hip. Inhale, Reverse Warrior with your hand in your head in your hand. And then exhale, side angle pose. I'm going to revisit Reverse Warrior, so come all the way back up. Head in your hand, bend your front deeply. Exhale, back into side angle pose. One more time. This time, bring your left hand and place it behind your head and pull your head into your hand, getting a stretch through your left side body. Place your left hand to the floor, pull your left heel up. You're in a high lunge. Reach your right arm forward, turn to your right into this Vashisthasana variation. Pick up your right foot, put it behind you, put your right hand behind your head and lift your heart up toward the ceiling, this Kamatkarasana. Right hand behind your head as a variation to open up the right side of your body. Here comes the step and turn. Right hand to the floor, step your right foot forward and turn to the left into Skandasana. Bind is optional. Okay, walk your hands back to the right into a high lunge position and slide through a vinyasa or go straight to downward facing dog. When you're ready to, send your left leg in the air. Exhale through warrior two, or excuse me, left foot forward. Then open up to warrior two position. Right hand to hip, left hand to sky. Bring your hand back behind your head, reverse warrior, and then send it forward into side angle pose. Reverse warrior variation, hand behind your head, side angle pose. Last time, little variation here. This time, once you get into side angle pose, put your right hand behind your head, point your right elbow toward the wall in front of you, the direction the crown of your head's going. Then as you exhale, put your right hand to the floor. It's a high lunge position. Left arm goes forward and turn to your left. This Vashisthasana variation. To Kamatkarasana. Left foot behind you, left hand behind your head. Little quad stretch, little side bend like we're doing all practice long. Here comes the step and turn. So left foot comes forward. Turn to the right. Skandasana. Optional. You might move your way into this variation, perhaps a bind. Unwind this thing, walk it back to a high lunge facing forward, and your choice, down dog position or move through a vinyasa. Now, 5 breaths in downward facing dog. And then I want to rest by coming into Vrajasana, this kneeling pose like so, with your hands to your thighs, where we just chillax for here for a little bit. Okay. Now, if this isn't great for your knees or the sock tops of your feet, grab a block or something you can sit on so you're a little bit taller. Okay. Now, if Virasana, I think that's the name of the pose I couldn't remember earlier. If Virasana works for you, bring your sitting bones all the way down to the floor between your heels. But here's the qualifier, it's got to be comfortable. You've got to be able to hang here for a little bit. Remember, this is our relaxing pose. It's not an intense part of our practice. So if you can ground here and stay relaxed, great. Find the version of the pose that is engaging enough just to keep your mind engaged, but relaxing enough that there's no effort to hold this. And let's give ourselves maybe 4 or 5 more breaths as we allow this to kind of be our resting pose. When you've had 4 or 5 breaths here, let's make our way back into a downward facing dog pose. So we're going to work through a couple of sort of proto handstands, if that's in your practice, or just what I call donkey kicks, sort of like some down dog variations, right? So either way, you're going to look up your thumbs for a sec, grip your fingers slightly on the floor, and squeeze biceps in toward your ears. Now look back toward your toes for a second and step your left foot forward just a couple of inches. Right leg lifts in the air. You may want to watch me do this once. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop my foot to the floor. Using my right leg as straight leverage, it's going to pull me up off the floor as I do a little hop with my bottom leg. One of those things, right? I don't have to come very high, but if it feels good, I might come up a little bit higher, like into a K stance, okay? I'm pushing my hands on the floor. Now here's the deal. I want to do this according to my breath. So I'm going to exhale all the way out, and at the bottom of that breath, I'm going to do my lift. Land, inhale again, and then go for another shot. Okay? Give it a couple rounds. And then rest in downward facing dog pose or child's pose. So the deal with inversions is we can blow out our energy really easily because, they're volatile, right? They're kind of hard to do. We're upside down. Easy to freak out in these poses. So if we incorporate our breath, particularly the power of the exhale, and then push up into the pose, we find ourselves naturally contracting our bandos, these inner energy locks that help us hold ourselves upright in the posture, okay? So let's try the left side. And again, you could just be doing these little donkey kicks. Your bottom foot might lift off the floor for just a second, or you might be practicing full-on handstands with whatever's in your practice. And I should have said this on the other side, but hopefully like coffee tables are out of the way and pets. If you're gonna go over and there's somebody else in the room, it's always polite to yell, like 4 or some sort of warning so people know like you are a, acrobat rolling through the room, all right? So find yourself in down dog. This time, pick up your left leg, look up to your hands. On the bottom of the exhale, do your little lift. Come down, inhale, and exhale, and lift. One more. And then come down to rest. Again, either in Virasana, this thing, hero's pose, right? Vrajasana, which is the same thing essentially, but feet together, okay? Or in child's pose. So after you've had a couple moments to relax, let's come to a lying on our back position. And I want to prepare ourselves to open up our hips a little bit, as do a couple maybe heart openers. And then we're going to bring our practice down even more. So this is sort of like this stage of our practice where let's start to get grounded a little bit. Even though there's some energy we're still going to spend in our practice, we're going to get a little more grounded. Start by walking your shoulder blades together. Kind of hug your lower back into the floor. And then bend your elbows at right angles. You're going to lift your hips up into easy bridge pose. Now the easy bridge, I'm not lifting up very high. Elbows stay at right angles. As I press my elbows down to the floor, I'm also doing a little lift of my chin. So I'm activating the muscles between the shoulder blades. These are the middle trapezius muscles and the rhomboid muscles. Okay. If I want to go deeper, I will interlace my fingers, walk my shoulder blades together even more, and reach the knuckles toward the heels. Okay. If I'm going to back off a little bit, I'll just go back to the elbows bent at right angles, or grab my block or blocks and come into a supported bridge pose. Now, if you've chosen a supported bridge, just hang out here for a while because we're going to come back to this pose, okay? There's no reason to come in and out if you've got some support into your sacrum. Otherwise, if you've been in bridge for a little bit, come down, relax, and then just send your body long, arms up over your head, legs long. Pull your knees into your chest. Little rock side to side. Again, if you are doing supported bridge pose, just stay right there because we're coming right back to bridge. Set yourself up for bridge again. If you've come out of the pose, walk your shoulder blades together, hug lower back toward the floor as you lift your hips up. Okay. Set the shoulder blades even together even more Eventually you might start here with elbows bent, but then maybe you go into full Setubandha Sarvangasana, this shoulder stand bridge pose. Lift your hips up in the air. Stretch through your pecs. This pose feels amazing. And then, whether supported bridge or regular bridge, you're going to remove your stuff, come down slowly. Let's all come into this arms overhead, legs long stretch here. Now, as my arms come over my head, my lower back kind of hugs back down into the floor. And then I'm going to bend my knees, come back into this kind of bear hug thing, this little rock side to side. Now I want to do one of two hip openers. A little bit easier, just a figure four stretch. Right ankle over left thigh. I'm going to reach through and hold onto my shin as I pull my knee toward my chest. And I get this nice stretch here in the muscles on the outside of my hip. If I'm not feeling much of a stretch, I'm going to move into a little bit deeper stretch, Supta Gomukhasana, the supine cow face pose, by bringing my knees together, reach up and grab the outside edge of my feet as I pull my ankle bones toward my armpits. And that gives me a really good stretch here in the muscles of both hips, but particularly closest to my rib cage. Okay. Now, if you're pretty tight in this pose and your head can't come back to the floor, you maybe would be better served by doing the figure four stretch, or just grab something and put that back behind your head. Okay. Switch sides, so left ankle over right thigh for either the figure four stretch, or if it would serve you to do so, bring your thighs together and reach up and grab the outside edge of your feet. Okay, when that's done, let's move into a happy baby pose. Release, bring the soles of your feet, point them up toward the ceiling as you hold on to the outside pinky toe side of your feet. Ground your sacrum to the floor, your shoulder blades and the back of your head to the floor. And then breathe deeply as if you can send breath all the way down into your pelvis. Okay, now place your feet to the floor, and I want to do one more back bend, and you get to choose what you want to do. You could lift up and move back into a supported bridge pose. Voila. You can move into our regular bridge pose again, because that felt great. It'd be interesting to feel what this is like having just done our hip openers. Okay? Or, if you wish, you can move all the way into full Urdhva Dhanurasana, upside down bow pose, or wheel pose. Okay? So if that's in your practice, put your hands up by your shoulders, okay? Point your fingers slightly out so your forearms are parallel, and then press up under the top of your head for a moment and bring your hands back underneath the shoulders. Use your legs to begin to open up your upper back, and then press your hands straight into the floor. New back bend. Four or five breaths in whichever back bend feels great for you. And then when you're done, come back down. Just rest for a moment with your knees bent. Very neutral pose, back flat to the floor. Our next pose is going to be a happy baby. So when it feels right after a couple of breaths, we'll counter pose, but moving back up into our happy baby. Now, while we're here in our back, bring your knees together and start to make circles in the air with your knees. If you've got a sensitive back, you may choose to hold on to your kneecaps as you kind of move around in this way. Or if your back's okay, doesn't feel any pain here, then just make these circles nice and big and massage around through the meaty part of the glutes. Biggest muscles of the body. Really strong. They get often very, very tight. I don't think we think about that very often. But this is a nice little pressure massage we give for these muscles They are extensors, meaning they help us bend our back. When they get really tight, they can hold our lower back into a little bit of extension, a little bit lower back tension can exist there. And so by keeping these muscles nice and soft, keeping the lower back pliable, this is a nice way of just reducing some of the tension by holding our lower back. It's really nice. Okay, so roll over to one side, come up to a seated position, everybody. And we're going to move into a Paschimottanasana, seated forward fold. Lean over to one side, grab the flesh up from under the sitting bones, and so that the ischial-tuberosities, the bony part of your hips, the bony part of your butt, roots down into the floor, sit up nice and straight with your trunk, and then contract your quads so the backs of your thighs are gently pressing into the floor. You notice toes are pointing straight up. And at first I'm going to keep my trunk nice and straight. Okay? I'm going to walk my hands forward as much as I can with my spine straight, and that might mean that I don't necessarily touch my toes. Public service announcement, touching your toes is not necessarily a demarcation of wellness. Okay? Some of us have long arms, some of us have short arms, long legs, short legs, long torso, who knows? We've all got some different combinations. So it's an arbitrary marker whether or not that works. Okay? If you wish, you can bend your knees here. Okay? If you are flexible enough with a straight spine to touch your toes, more power to you, but that's not necessarily our goal. Okay? Otherwise, maybe just hold on to the backs of your calves, or even put your hands to the floor. Okay? Especially when I started my yoga practice, I was super, super tight, and this was plenty of a stretch for me. Right? But what I like about this upright spine stuff is I'm going to make a distinction between spinal flexion, which is the roundedness in my spine, and hip flexion, which is going to really accentuate the hamstring flexibility. So as I lean forward with a straight spine, I'm almost thinking of my sternum leaning forward and up in an angle, then I'm really maximizing everything I do just with the bending of my hips. Okay? And then from there, I'm going to pretend that there were a bar right around my navel, and I wanted to round my back over the bar without moving any other part of the spine. So just my kind of lower back rounding here. And then imagine that bar lifts up to kind of ribs, and I wanted to round middle back, and then up to sternum, and see if you can round kind of upper back, and then finally shoulders, finally neck, into a comfortable Paschimottanasana, this westward facing stretch, or seating forward fold. With these rounds of deep, full Ujjayi breath. Remember, oxygen, we need oxygen in these muscles to do what we're asking them to do, both contracting as well as elongating. Okay? Now, if you feel a big pull behind your knees, these are tendons, we don't want to stretch those, or high up in your butt, these are also tendons where your muscles connect up to your hip bones. Okay, so bend your knees if that's the case. Otherwise, put yourself like at a level 7 intensity. 10 is your most intense. Back off to a level 7. Keep this organic, meaning inhale, you'll naturally back off the pose a little, and exhale, you'll find yourself going a little bit deeper in the pose. You're just breathing and feeling yourself into this posture. Once you've had a good couple of breaths there, bring your hands back behind you. And we're going to do a counter pose, either Purvottanasana seated on the floor, right? I'm looking for a heart opener. Or full Purvottanasana, eastward facing stretch, by pointing the toes and lifting all the way up. I conveniently have a wall behind me so I can rest my head on the wall. Or split the difference with your knees bent in a tabletop pose. Shoulders pull together and back, the heart lifts up. I love the stretch that I get in my biceps in this pose. Hard to stretch those muscles, but this is one of the few poses where I really get a stretch there. Really nice. Okay, so let's come back down. Soles of the feet together with your knees wide into Baddha Konasana. Heels pull in. This might be a pose where you may choose to sit up on a cushion or a block. Okay? And as the heels come in, if you're a little bit tight in your muscles, the way I am in my muscles, then you might feel benefit by raising the seat a little bit. And as I sit up, I'm going to sit right on the front edge of that thing. In fact, if you were to see behind me on this block, the block is doing a little tilt off the floor even, the back edge, as I'm really right on the edge. Okay? So the same thing I did in my last pose, I'm going to straighten up nice and long through my trunk, and begin to lean forward as much as I can with a straight spine. Again, sternum kind of leans forward up into an angle, and then I'm going to pull my belly in and start to round my spine a little bit here in this pose. Trying to relax the shoulders. Good, let's come back out of this pose, come back upright. And again, let's revisit our counter pose. So I may choose a seated version of Purvottanasana, eastward facing stretch. Full version, kind of classical version of Purvottanasana, eastward facing stretch. Or again, split the difference in the tabletop, my hips lifted up a little bit. All right. So two more poses before Shavasana. Here's what I want to do. I want to either revisit Vrajasana, where I'm just sitting on my shins, sitting on my heels, grounding upright like this. Okay. Again, we're cooling down now. We're starting to settle. If I want to then move a little bit deeper into Virasana, hero's pose, great. And it might be skillful, if I choose to sit on something here in this pose, depending on what my hips, my ankles, my knees are going to allow me to do. Okay? Now, if you have some cushions available, or you've got some blocks available, you might even go for a supine version of this pose, where Supta Virasana, where I lean back on the elbows, maybe I catch my spine on the block here. Oh, and look, here's a fantastic head rest. I want to be comfortable in this pose. I'm thinking of my tailbone going long toward my heels, which gives me a better stretch through my quads. And these muscles get tight, they pull up, they connect to the front of the hips, and it's going to rock my whole pelvis forward. So if I tuck my tailbone, think of pubic bone, these hip bones pulling up, I get a better stretch in my quads, and I don't get so much kind of tension in my lower back. Right? If this is the antithesis of comfortable, this is not the pose for you. Remember, we're trying to cool down here. Not like you're going to take a nap in this pose, even if you are relatively at ease here, but we want to make sure that we can be relatively comfortable. Okay? Now, we are done with the active part of our practice. Nonetheless, I think that a great pose, post-Virasana or Vrajasana, is downward facing dog. And it feels really nice for the ankles especially, as a counter pose, kind of neutralizing pose here. All right, so let's come back to hands and knees. Cross your ankles behind you. And we're going to move into a twist. So what I want to do is lie down on your back. Have you lie down on your back. And as you do so, you're going to drop your knees. First of all, scoop your hips to the right, drop your knees to the left, and then reach over and rest your right shoulder blade on the ground for a gentle twist. Several rounds of slow, deep breath here. You're really emphasizing the exhale part, which is sort of the quintessential release. And we're starting to release into the softer elements of our practice. We've done all the doing part. Let's just tune into the observing part. Okay, so as you're ready to, using strong core muscles, bring your knees back to the middle. Scoop your hips over to the right as you drop your knees to the left. And open this up here on this side. Okay, now as you're ready to, when both sides feel equal, we're going to get ready for our last pose, Shavasana. Bring it all back to the middle. Send your legs out about as wide as your mat. Arms a little wider than your mat. Turn your palms open and walk the shoulder blades together. If there's any other pose your body needs to do before coming into a resting pose, go for it. Okay? Take a sigh out your mouth. And let's spend the next several moments in mere observation. First off, notice how your body feels here at the end of our yoga practice. Relax your face, relax your arms, relax your legs, pelvis, your back. And then scan your whole body head to toe and see if you can get maybe just 10% more relaxed than you are right now. Let's say that for the rest of our practice, nothing is good and nothing is bad. And we can just allow things to be exactly the way they are. And as we're resting here, I'm going to play a little music. I brought my clarinet today. And I want you to listen to the music to simply notice, in just pure observation, what the music evokes for you. If it's an emotion, maybe some people see colors or energy. Let's say that the music is neither good or bad either. It's just more information. And you're just taking in information. You're just the mere observer of the information, and that's all. Okay, so totally relax here. Just enjoy. So give yourself a moment and begin to breathe a little bit deeper into your belly. Move your fingers and your toes a little bit. Eventually, I want you to roll over to one side and come upright again to a seated position. And as you do so, let's open our arms wide. Give yourself a big inhale as you raise your arms to the sky. And as you exhale, bring your hands together back to your heart. Thank you so much for doing this practice with me today. It's so fun to connect with you in this way. Let's give ourselves one Om together. And wherever we are, whether we're watching this live or whether we're watching this later, this gives us a chance to kind of connect in heart and resonance, in across time and across space. Breathe in. Om. Thanks everybody. Namaste.